227 passengers and 12 crew members. The aircraft disappeared from civilian radar screens. It became the largest, most expensive search in aviation history. And for years, nothing was found. It's an unsolved riddle, a wound in aviation history, and a question mark written in the skies. What if one of the world's most advanced airplanes, carrying 239 people, could simply vanish into thin air? No distress call, no final goodbye, just silence. How can a Boeing 777 disappear in the 21st century when satellites monitor every corner of the globe? And why, even after the largest search in aviation history?
Breaking news tonight, a Malaysia Airlines flight
MH370
Flight MH370
disappeared en route to Beijing.
70, we are ready. Requesting flight number 310 to Beijing. Can I request do chapter?
Flight MH370.
Again, because in this story we'll uncover the strange timeline, chilling theories, and hidden clues that may finally bring us closer to solving aviation's greatest mystery. You're watching Spark Vision TV. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss stories the world can't stop talking about. It was the early hours of March 8, 2014. Malaysia Airlines Flight MH370, a Boeing 777-200ER, prepared for takeoff from Kuala Lumpur International Airport. Its destination? Beijing, China. On board were 227 passengers and 12 crew members, 239 souls in total. Among them were families returning home, business travelers, students, and vacationers. People of 15 different nationalities, united by nothing more than the flight they had chosen. At 12:41 a.m., MH370 lifted off into the night sky. Everything was routine. The weather was calm. The aircraft climbed steadily, cruising toward the South China Sea. The captain that night was Zahari Ahmad Shah, 53 years old, a veteran pilot with over 18,000 flying hours. His co-pilot was 27-year-old Fariq Abdul Hamid, who was making one of his final training flights before full certification. At 1:19 a.m., Zahari gave his final radio transmission. "Good night, Malaysian 370. Those words were calm, professional, unremarkable. But just 2 minutes later, something extraordinary happened. At 1:21 a.m., MH370's transponder, the electronic device that communicates with air traffic control, was switched off. The aircraft disappeared from civilian radar screens. For controllers on the ground, it was as if the plane had simply melted into the darkness. At first, they assumed it was a technical glitch. Commercial flights occasionally lose signals briefly. But as minutes turned into hours and MH370 failed to check in with Vietnamese airspace, alarm spread. By dawn, Malaysia Airlines confirmed the unthinkable. Flight MH370 was missing. What followed was a story of confusion, heartbreak, and endless questions. Unknown to most at the time, military radar still had traces of MH370. Investigators later discovered that instead of heading northeast toward Beijing, the aircraft had turned sharply west, back across the Malay Peninsula. For nearly an hour, it flew undetected, threading a path along airspace boundaries, as if trying to avoid detection. It then turned south, heading into the vast emptiness of the Indian Ocean. And here's where satellite data added a chilling twist. Even after its transponder went dark, the plane was still communicating, indirectly with an Inmarsat satellite. These handshakes continued for nearly 7 hours. The final signal came at 8:11 a.m. By then, experts believed the plane had exhausted its fuel and crashed somewhere deep in the southern Indian Ocean. But where exactly? The first official search zones focused on the South China Sea, based on the plane's intended route. When evidence showed it had flown west, the search shifted to the Andaman Sea and later to the Indian Ocean. Over 26 countries joined in the hunt. Ships, planes, submarines, and satellites scanned hundreds of thousands of square kilometers. It became the largest, most expensive search in aviation history. And for years, nothing was found. Then in July 2015, hope flickered. On the island of Réunion, east of Madagascar, a piece of aircraft wreckage washed ashore. It was a flaperon, a movable part of the wing. Tests confirmed it came from MH370. Later, more debris appeared in Tanzania, Mozambique, Madagascar, and other Indian Ocean islands. All pointed to the same conclusion. The aircraft had ended its journey in the remote Southern Ocean. But despite the debris, the main wreckage and black boxes remained missing. And without them, the final moments of MH370 remain locked in mystery. This is where theories, some chilling, some wild, began to emerge. Some investigators point to the possibility of catastrophic failure. Picture it, a sudden electrical fire breaking out in the avionics bay, or smoke flooding the cockpit. In that scenario, the aircraft would continue flying, guided only by autopilot, until its fuel ran dry and it plunged into the sea. It sounds hauntingly plausible, yet it leaves troubling gaps. If this was simply an accident, why were communications switched off one by one, as if by deliberate hands? Why the strange detour across Malaysian airspace? Those aren't the signs of a helpless plane. They're the signs of a controlled one. And that leads us to a darker possibility: human interference. For a time, suspicion fell on 2 passengers traveling with stolen passports. But these turned out to be asylum seekers, with no connection to terrorism. No extremist group ever claimed responsibility for the disappearance, a silence that stands out since hijackers almost always seek recognition. Could it have been a carefully planned hijacking, not for publicity, but for something else? Some have whispered that sensitive cargo, possibly even military technology, was on board. If true, who would want it? And what lengths might they go to seize it? And then there are the cover-up theories. Some believe MH370 strayed into restricted airspace and was mistaken for a threat. Was it shot down by military forces, accidentally or otherwise? And the truth buried beneath official statements? The evidence for such claims is thin. But when governments delay releasing satellite data, when search areas are shifted without clear explanation, when families are left to wonder in silence, suspicion grows naturally. And perhaps the most unsettling theory is also the most personal: pilot suicide. Investigators discovered that Captain Zahari's home flights contained practice routes eerily similar to MH370's final known path. Was this coincidence, or was it preparation? Friends and family strongly deny the idea. They describe Zahari as passionate about flying, with no reason to end his life or take 238 others with him. And yet the possibility lingers in the background, unanswered. Each theory explains some parts of the mystery, but none explain it all. And through all of this, the human tragedy continues. Imagine being a family member, waiting at the airport in Beijing, expecting to see your loved one walk through the arrival gate, only to be told the plane never came. Imagine waiting months, years, with no remains, no clear answers, no closure. Parents lost children. Children grew up without parents. Husbands and wives remain in limbo, their lives frozen at 1:21 a.m. on March 8, 2014. One grieving relative once said, "To lose someone in a crash is devastating. To lose them without knowing where or why, that is torture." Beyond the grief, MH370 exposed a glaring truth. Our skies are not as closely monitored as we thought. How could a modern Boeing 777, equipped with advanced systems, fly for hours unseen? How could entire regions fail to notice a missing plane? The tragedy forced change. New international rules now require aircraft to transmit their location at least every 15 minutes. Satellites keep closer watch. Ideas like live streaming black box data are being developed so that information is never lost at the bottom of the sea again. And yet, despite all the improvements, MH370 itself remains missing. In 2018, Ocean Infinity, a private company with state-of-the-art underwater drones, launched a new search. They mapped more than 112,000 square kilometers of ocean floor. But like the missions before them, they came back empty-handed. The wreckage, and with it the truth, still lies somewhere beneath the endless waves. So what really happened to flight MH370? Was it a tragic accident? A deliberate act? A hijacking with hidden motives? Or something darker, buried beneath layers of secrecy? Until the day the black boxes are recovered, no one can say for certain. The disappearance of MH370 is more than the story of a missing plane. It's a reminder that even in a world of GPS, satellites, and instant communication, mystery still exists. It reminds us that certainty can vanish in the blink of an eye, leaving only silence, speculation, and unanswered questions. And so the story of MH370 endures through the grief of families, the debates of experts, and the curiosity of millions who still ask, how can an entire plane vanish without a trace? Perhaps one day the ocean will reveal its secrets. Until then, MH370 remains an unsolved riddle, a wound in aviation history, and a question mark written in the skies. Now I want to hear from you. What do you think happened to MH370? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. This is Spark Vision TV. If you want more mysteries, more stories, and more untold truths, make sure you subscribe, turn on notifications, and share this video with a friend who loves uncovering secrets. Until next time, stay curious.